The universe was quiet. Not peaceful-like, never peaceful-like, but quiet enough for the watcher to almost forget the sound of creation. In the silence between stars, he observed the familiar rhythm of life and death. Worlds were born, burned, rebuilt. Empires rose, heroes fell, and even gods learned to kneel before time. But on one ordinary rotation of eternity, something extraordinary stirred beneath the calm. It began as a tremor, small, invisible, buried deep within the lattice of space-time. The tremor spread, hundred-eye lay, paused, and somewhere between dimensions, reality cracked. It wasn't an explosion. Explosions destroy. This unfolded. A rip stretched open like a wound in the universe's skin, glowing with the heat of creation itself. Energy bled from it in colors unseen by mortal eyes, warping gravity and rewriting the laws that held galaxies in place. On the blue planet below, Earth's magicians felt it first. Dr. Stephen Strange woke in the Sanctum Sanctorum to the sound of reality screaming. His relics trembled on their pedestals. Portals misfired across dimensions. The mirror realm shattered like glass, spilling shards of reflected worlds into one another. Strange's astral senses reached outward and recoiled. Whatever was coming through that fracture wasn't demonic, nor divine. It was primal, ancient enough to make eternity itself feel young. In Wakanda, vibranium sensors overloaded, humming with foreign resonance. Shura's computers registered an energy reading beyond classification, a pulse that didn't match any known cosmic signature. Even the heart-shaped herb wilted for a breath, as if the planet's own spirit took a step back. From orbit, the SWORD satellites detected a gravitational spike above the Pacific. The pattern resembled a singularity, but moving, alive, beating like a heart. And every time it pulsed, tectonic plates on Earth shifted by a fraction of an inch. The Avengers assembled. Not Tony Stark stared at the readings, brow furrowed behind the blue glow of his holographic display. "This isn't alien," he whispered to no one. "This is elemental." Across realms, in Asgard's rebuilt citadel, lightning flickered without storm. Thor felt it before he saw its hands. A change in the air, a stirring of forces even his father's magic couldn't name. The Bifrost flared unbidden, its light bending toward the same point on Earth. Heimdall was gone, but if he had been alive, he would have whispered one word: arrival. In the depths of space, near the shattered ruins of Xandar, the Nova Corps watched their monitors blink red. An energy surge erupted from the voidus, massive enough to be mistaken for a supernova. But when their senses focused, they didn't see a dying star. They saw movement, nodo, and busity. Something enormous breached their dimension, dragging a tidal wave of radiation behind it. The Silver Surfer was the first to approach. His board cut through the cosmic wind, slicing between nebulae and stardust. The light of 1,000 suns glimmered across his silver skin. He had felt power before Galactus, eternity, infinity, infiniture. But this felt different. Cruder, older and says, two ends whispered. Like the first breath of a newborn universe exhaled through rage. He followed the trail until it led him to a dark sphere of distortion. There, in the stillness between galaxies, he saw it, a creature coiled within a storm of raw atomic fire. Its skin reflected the glow of dying stars. Its spines pulsed with bioluminescent fury. Its roar, when it came, wasn't sound, it was gravity trembling. Space itself quaked around its presence. It was life and extinction chained within one form. The surfer gazed in silent awe. He didn't know the creature's name, but he understood its intent. Something or someone had pulled this being across the divide of worlds. It was not meant to exist here, not yet. It did, and as it opened its glowing eyes, the universe flinched. The men, Kad-Tad, was sea. My head. Back on Earth, the oceans began to convulse. Waves rose like walls, spiraling into the clouds. The Pacific shimmered under a veil of blue-white energy. Lightning laced the sky in patterns that mimicked the heartbeat of something vast beneath. And then without warning, the sea exploded upward. A pillar of steam and light erupted from the ocean, splitting clouds and bending wind. Out of that storm, a shape emerged. Gigantic, towering, alive. Every living thing felt it. Birds stopped mid-flight. A crossing, whales dove in silence. Even storms seemed to hesitate. The creature's dorsal plates glowed in rhythm with the pulse of the cosmic fracture above. And when the roar came, it wasn't the cry of a beast. It was a declaration, and host, wind, Godzilla had entered the Marvel universe. And see, came me. The blast wave traveled around the globe 3 times. In Wakanda, Black Panther stood on the royal balcony, his claws cutting small sparks into the railing as he stared toward the horizon. In New York, Tony Stark's satellites realigned automatically, mapping the creature's radiation signature. Bruce Banner felt the gamma spike and went pale. "That's not possible," he murmured. "That's beyond gamma. That's creation radiation. Radiation." Dr. Strange hovered above the sanctum in his astral form, watching energy threads twist from the rift into Godzilla's body. "He's not destroying the rift," Strange whispered to the wind. "He's stabilizing it." But stabilization had a cost. Every second the creature remained, the universe's equilibrium warped. Gravity wells formed around him. Quasars flickered. Even distant planets began to drift subtly off course. The cosmic order was reacting. Far beyond the solar system, Galactus stirred from his slumber. The world devourer's consciousness expanded across sectors, following the tremor that had disturbed the great balance. His herald's alarm reached him instantly. Silver Surfer's voice echoed across dimensions. "A being has crossed from another reality. Its power rivals your own." Galactus opened his eyes, each glowing brighter than dying stars. "Then another force claims dominion over the balance," he rumbled to no one. "That cannot be allowed." "Lied!" He turned his gaze toward Earth. "I in the curry." In the Kree Empire, energy readings reached the supreme intelligence. On Titan's ruins, the ghost of Thanos flickered like smoke through the void, watching the same rift unfold. And in the dark dimension, Dormammu laughed softly, his deep voice vibrating through shadows. "New fire, old hunger. Let them burn each other, and the ashes will be mine. Pour, twin bells and prude, note enter the strands. On Earth, we Avengers moved into formation." They weren't facing an invader. They were facing a force of nature from another existence. Iron Man deployed atmospheric drones to monitor radiation. Captain America stood ready near the shoreline, his shields gleaming beneath the storm's glow. Thor descended with lightning wrapped around his hammer, scanning the massive silhouette on the horizon. Whatever it is, he thought, it challenges gods. And still, Godzilla did not attack. He simply looked skyward, toward the rift still bleeding light across the cosmos. He roared once more, not in rage but in warning. The sound cracked satellites, shattered clouds, and sent every creature on Earth trembling. Dr. Strange felt the meaning in that sound. It wasn't destruction, it was pain. The creature wasn't meant to be here. Every breath he took was tearing a hole through the laws of this reality. The multiverse itself protested his existence. From the void above, Silver Surfer watched in silent awe. The creature's energy harmonized with the rift's pattern, resonating in frequencies older than light. He realized then what even Galactus had not yet seen. This being was not alien to the universe. It was the universe raw, unrefined, and alive. Sapardi. 1. He eggs. As hours turned to days, the effects rippled outward. Planets near Sol began to spin faster. The moon's orbit shifted by half a degree. Dimensional anomalies appeared near Taj. And in the negative zone, Annihilus felt the pull of energy and began to awaken. Earth's mightiest heroes were no longer preparing for battle. They were preparing for revelation. Men, end, more. Captain Marvel arrived from deep space. her photon trail lighting the upper atmosphere like a comet. She saw the creature's size, its heat signatures, and for the first time in years, she hesitated. She could destroy ships, fleets, empire, but could she destroy something that embodied the laws of existence? The answer came from the stars. Hey! A ripple in space, a presence older than galaxies. Galactus had arrived. The Devourer's shadow stretched across Earth's orbit, eclipsing the sun. His voice echoed in frequencies that cracked radio waves and silenced thunder. He spoke without words, and yet every living being heard him. Balance must be maintained. Anomaly must be consumed. The Silver Surfer's eyes widened. Not consume, he whispered to the void. Understand. But Galactus was beyond listening. This sick daza. From the Watcher's vantage point beyond time, he saw the stage set. On one side, the living embodiment of primal balance. On the other, the god who fed on imbalance to survive. And between them, Earth, fragile and unaware of the cosmic war about to begin. The storm gathered once more. Godzilla raised his head toward the heavens. The energy on his dorsal spines flared brighter, white-hot against the dark sky. Every beat of his heart resonated with the universe itself. The ground beneath the Pacific glowed, forming concentric circles of atomic light. Above, Galactus opened his hand. Worlds trembled at the gesture. Power. Cosmic surged from his palm, a river of violet fire cascading toward Earth. Godzilla roared and met it head-on. The clash didn't sound like thunder. It sounded like creation itself remembering how to scream. For one blinding moment, light consumed the sky. The oceans boiled, Hawa, even Ses then Diowefa. Mountains bowed. And in that silence after, even the Watcher dared not breathe. Cart Nate, Stein. My light faded. When the light faded, Godzilla still stood. Smoke curled from his scales, and his eyes burned with ancient defiance. Galactus' attack had not destroyed him, it had fed him. The power cosmic, absorbed and refracted, merged with the atomic fire that birthed him. For the first time, the balance had a voice strong enough to answer hunger itself. The Watcher closed his eyes. And thus it begins, he whispered into the void. The war of gods, born from man's oldest fear that nature itself might one day look back. The shockwave of that first clash rippled through the universe like the heartbeat of a newborn god. Across the void, galaxies trembled, quasars dimmed. Even the celestials turned their heads toward the faint blue world now wrapped in atomic light. The Watcher stood upon the edge of reality, silent. What he witnessed was not merely battle, it was evolution. When two forces of absolute balance meet, the cosmos itself listens. Is me, cool, car, do, star. Car above Earth, Galactus hovered like an eclipse made flesh. His armor glistened with the reflections of collapsing stars. His power radiated in waves of violet flame, carving temporary scars into the fabric of the dimension around him. He was hunger personified, a necessary evil in an endless cycle of consumption. And now, before him, stood something he could neither classify nor consume. Godzilla's body shimmered beneath the stormlight. Steam rose from his scales, and head, book. The blue atomic glow that lined his spine had turned pale goldate, the hue of cosmic fire merging with nuclear creation. For the first time in countless eons, Galactus felt uncertainty. He reached into the power cosmic again, drawing energy from the dying suns at the edge of Andromeda. Space folded around his will. He would devour this anomaly as he had devoured worlds. But when he released that torrent a flood of annihilation that could vaporize Moonsaw, it didn't burn, it bent. The fire curved around Godzilla's form like a river refusing to drown the mountain. The beast roared, and the energy shattered into shards of light. Each shard rippled outward, forming concentric rings that circled the Earth's orbit. Those rings pulsed once, then vanished. For a moment, Galactus saw his own reflection within those lights. It was not a reflection of power but of warning. Sao that nigh. that in then below, humanity could only watch and brown. Iron Man's armor registered gravitational distortions that defied the equations he built. "This isn't physics anymore," he muttered in disbelief. "It's willpower sculpting matter." Thor hovered in the upper stratosphere, Mjolnir humming with celestial electricity. He felt the storm breathe with the monster's rhythm. Longo, it was as if the very essence of thunder had found its god. Doctor Strange, suspended between dimensions, saw threads of reality converging upon the creature like veins of fate. "He doesn't belong," Strange whispered, "but the universe is making room for him." Every life form on Earth, man, insect, whale, and wind too, felt the same truth in their bones. The intruder was not an invader. He was a correction. "Moo!" and accepted the vast garden. In deep space, the Silver Surfer lingered, his board gliding silently through debris fields of dust and starlight. He gazed upon the monster below and saw poetry in its chaos. The surfer had once believed the power cosmic to be infinite, but the aura surrounding Godzilla, raw, golden, timeless sage, felt older than infinity itself. He remembered Galactus once saying, "All hunger is born from imbalance." And now he saw the paradox. If Galactus fed upon worlds to maintain cosmic order, then what was this being? Who existed to counter him? Was Godzilla not a destroyer, but a cure? The surfer turned his gaze toward the rift still open behind Earth. It pulsed erratically now, wider and darker at its center. Energy bled from it, forming ribbons that stretched across constellations. Something else lurked within that darkness, something watching both titans with patient hunger. "Mats, why else?" 1970. On Xandar, panic spread through the Nova Corps. Reports from their outer sectors described gravity storms ripping through their patrol routes. Nova Prime stood before the holographic display of the solar system, her eyes fixed on the distortion encircling Earth. "If that rift keeps growing," she said quietly, "it will consume the entire quadrant." And then the communications officer gasped. "Ma'am, the energy from the rift there is. It's responding to the creature." "Responding?" "Yes. It's synchronizing." Nova Prime froze. "Dana!" "Then whatever brought it here is still calling it home." "Poe! Poe in the sparable stretches and ban, mooring Jamia than nays," eyes ignited. The surge of energy across the multiverse cracked his prison's walls. Flames of corrupted time poured through the gaps. "So the door opens again," he murmured, "and the balance forgets who it once served." His essence extended tendrils into the fractures, seeking to attach itself to the chaos. For now he would watch. But soon he would feed. Fire, car, bark on Earth. The Avengers were gathering in the ruins of their command facility. Captain America stood in the war room, staring at holographic projections of the sky. "If that thing fights up there," he said quietly, "we may not have a planet left to stand on." Tony Stark replied, voice steady but hollow. "Steve, we're not part of this fight anymore. We're spectators to something written before history began." "And spectators don't save worlds," Steve countered. Thor landed, lightning fading from his armor. "You cannot strike what you cannot touch. That creature is not foe nor friend. It is judgment." Hulk stood silent by the window, green eyes glowing faintly. "Judgment can bleed," he rumbled, though his tone lacked conviction. For the first time in a long time, Earth's mightiest heroes felt small. "20 Piers, Dobbar." Above the clouds, Godzilla raised his head again. His golden glow spread outward, forming a halo that stretched beyond the troposphere. The radiation emitted wasn't toxicous. It was creative, birthing strange auroras across the entire planet. In deserts, sand turned to glass sculptures. In the oceans, coral glowed with soft blue fire. Life adapted in seconds to what should have destroyed it. The Watcher noted this change with awe. "He heals as he harms," he mused. "Such paradox cannot last. Balance demands an answer." "To first ours," That answer came from the depths of the rift. A shadow began to form within the fracture, massive, shapeless, alive. It pulsed once, and even Godzilla turned his head. The beast sensed it instinctively, the way prey senses a predator, or perhaps how a guardian senses corruption. The rift's energy coalesced into something resembling tendrils of darkness, each the width of a solar system. The Silver Surfer felt the vibration in his atoms. "No," he whispered. "That's not Galactus' power. That's older." Galactus felt it too. For the first time, he hesitated. This new presence was not of his kind. It was not even part of this reality. It was entropy incarnate and void, the void entity that had watched creation's birth and hungered ever since. The entity stirred. From its depths came a whisper that wasn't sound but decay itself. The stars flickered and aged in an instant. Planets within its shadow withered to dust. The void entity had awoken. The past to others, which case. Man dies, masked and stubborn, refused to die quietly. Godzilla roared again, this time not at Galactus, but at the sky. The sound reached beyond sound, vibrating the membranes of space itself. The rift quivered, momentarily shrinking under the force of that defiance. Atomic light clashed against anti-light. The cosmos became a storm of creation and unmaking. Galactus turned his gaze from the rift to the creature below. "You defy the hunger," he said to himself. "Then you will stand beside it." He raised his hand again, this time channeling energy not to destroy but to test. He wanted to know which of them the void would consume first. The blast that followed tore through dimensions. For an instant, all of existence blinked. In that blink, the Silver Surfer saw something extraordinary. The explosion didn't end, it transformed. The rift didn't close, it inverted. Godzilla didn't fall, he grew. He grew. Atomic energy intertwined with the power cosmic, fusing into new law. Matter and antimatter spun around his body like prayer beads. His scales darkened to obsidian, his spine shining like shards of starlight. The light in his eyes burned steady, ancient, aware. The Watcher recorded in silence. "He evolves to meet what the universe needs," he murmured. "And the universe needs a god who can bleed." Impossible, he thought. A creature of chaos mastering creation. Yet even he knew this was no longer a creature. It was a principle, alive and thinking. Godzilla raised his claw and the galaxies trembled. He didn't attack. He simply commanded. The residual energy from the rift began to weave around him, stabilizing, healing. Where Galactus consumed to balance, this being restored. But the void entity screamed. Darkness tore across the rift again, lashing out like tentacles of oblivion. One struck Galactus' armor, leaving scars that oozed starlight. Another slammed into Godzilla's chest, driving him back toward Earth. The skies ignited with atomic fury. Silver Surfer dove between them, carving through tendrils with trails of light, but it was like slicing fog with a blade. The entity was not matterous. It was the idea of unbeing. Every strike made it stronger. Godzilla roared and unleashed a spiral atomic beam fused with cosmic energy. The ray punched through the tendrils, illuminating the rift from within. For a heartbeat, the entity recoiled. But it wasn't defeated. Biao! It was curious. It was curious. A far, said Ah, and so the void whispered again. Not in words, but in thoughts that brushed against every conscious mind across the stars. Two sides, one coin. Both must fade for the coin to fall. Two fall. Even Galactus faltered under the pressure of that truth. His hunger turned cold. The surfer's eyes widened as he saw the meaning behind the rift. It was not a portal. It was a mirror. A reflection of the universe's imbalance, opening wider each time destruction outweighed creation. And now, with Galactus and Godzilla locked in opposition, that imbalance had found its perfect storm. The Watcher spoke softly to the silence between stars. Thus begins the awakening. Titans born from order and chaos must choose, destroy the other, or destroy the hunger that made them both. Beneath him, the universe burned in blue and violet fire. Earth's oceans glowed. The rift bled gold and black light. And black light, the chorus of collapsing dimensions, sang one eternal refrainus. Balance has awakened.